Spiritual service starts in 3 minutes and 12 seconds. Go ahead and find your seats. Our spiritual service starts in 3 minutes.
All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Free. I'm Ryan, and I'm the pastor here, and it's so good to be with y'all on our second Saturday night in our new home. This is good, huh? Hey, welcome to all of our online viewers. For those of you joining us on our website, or YouTube, or Facebook, we're glad you're with us tonight from wherever you are in the country. You're part of us, and we're grateful for that. We love y'all. We're glad you're part of this community. Listen, if you're new with us, we are a community for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees. And what we do here is break the silence of addiction. And on the count of 3, I want you all to say what we don't do here. But you got to say the full sentence. If you need a little help, it's on the count of 3, Saman. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we don't do shame here. That's one of our basic principles of being here at Free. Hey, and we call this place Free because all the things that set us free, grace, compassion, love, forgiveness, these are the things that are so freely given by God, and they set us free. So we call this place, you people, Free. Now, a couple things you need to know about coming up. Do y'all know, like, Christmas is 2 weeks from today? Did that raise some anxiety? Yeah, 2 weeks from today is Christmas. So Christmas is on a Saturday this year. We won't be having a service on Saturday night. We will pre-record a message and we'll launch it out on Christmas, I don't know, some point that day, probably that night. But no service here. The next week is New Year's Day. We will be having a regularly scheduled service New Year's Day, so I hope y'all come. It's going to be good. But next week will be normal. The next week is not normal because there's no service. That's Christmas. Then we're back on it from there on out. Make sense? Hey, if you are a member, I know many of them are outside still, but if you're a member of the home team, would you just stand up? Home team members, there's 1, 2, 3. Oh, yeah, we got some in the house. Can we give them a round of applause? And I know Rich and Sheila are out back making coffee, but you make the experience what it is. You welcome people, greet people, tell people where to park. And so thank you for creating hospitality here at Free. You all are greatly appreciated. So thank you for showing up each and every week and doing your thing. We love y'all. We're glad you're here. All right. Danny Colella did some of his magic and put together a video for us of telling kind of our story from the beginning to where we are now, just of our space. And y'all listen, I realize that we're always more than just space. We're always more than just a building. We're a community of people, and the people are what makes it. But I want you all to see this video. Take a look.
It's a new day. Make a move, doing things a new way. A new way. 'Cause this is our world, and this is our time. These are our plans, we're gonna let them shine. This is our place in the human race. And we won't stop dreaming. No, we won't stop dreaming. Look ahead, we can see forever. You and me doing it together. Light it up, we can be a million stars. Look at us, don't you see we've come so far? Yeah, we've come so far. 'Cause this is...
We are at our new home, 2122 South Lafayette Street, Denver, Colorado. All new flooring, all the way over to, that's going to be our cafe. You can see the kitchen in the back. It's going to get remodeled. This is the large auditorium. 5 or 6 meeting rooms that we can use. Kids' rooms, there'll be kids' rooms on Saturday nights. Meetings will happen in this space. All right, y'all, we got a major cafe coming in, the Free Cafe that's gonna serve wagon coffee. So all new flooring is going in here. We've got a fireplace happening up in this joint. So this was the Evanston Healing and Wellness Center. Before that, it was a United Methodist Church. So yeah, it's been a little churchy. It was built back in the 70s.
Cause this is our world, this is our time, these are our plans, we're gonna let them shine. This is our place in the human race, and we won't stop dreaming, no we won't stop dreaming. This is our world, and this is our time. These are our plans, we're gonna let them shine. This is our place in the human race, and we won't stop dreaming, no we won't stop dreaming. We won't stop dreaming.
Guys, we are 2 hours out from our open house and 3 hours to service, and we hope we see you tonight.
Is it not so fun to see yourself on video? Yeah. Yeah, you know what else is really cool? Last week we had over 40 kids back there. So when you all see Alyssa tonight, our director of Free Kids and Family Empowerment, give her a big shout out because she's doing incredible things with our kids. I don't know how many kids are back there now, but there's a lot of them because the Canada kids make up 4 alone. So there's a lot of kids back there. So give her a big shout out. She's doing incredible stuff with our children. Yes. All right, Andrew and Chandra are going to come up and do our Advent candle lighting. We're in week 2 of Advent. If you're a little fuzzy on what Advent is, Advent's the 4 weeks leading up to Christmas. It's the 4 weeks of expectant waiting and participation. I said it last week. It's the 4 weeks of realizing that God hasn't given up on the world. God hasn't left us. A new thing is happening, and so we recognize the candle of peace this week. So I'm going to let y'all take it.
Can y'all hear me? This evening we light 2 candles, the candle of hope and the candle of peace. This candle reminds us that God came into our messy world through the form of a vulnerable baby to restore peace. We remember remember that Christ is the Prince of Peace, who taught us the way of inviting God in so that we may experience peace within and spread peace to others.
Thank you all. All right, now that the candles are lit, we can do our thing. The way we start here at Free, thank you, Chandra and Andrew, by the way. The way we start here at Free is by celebrating together. Y'all know we don't ignore the hard stuff. We just save the hard stuff, the heartaches, for last. So we start with celebrating to remember the good in our midst. So it is your opportunity, and for you online, it's your opportunity to lift up the good things. Maybe it's a sobriety anniversary, a birthday. Maybe it's new babies being born, new jobs being gotten, new life in our midst. We lift these things up. We believe God celebrates with us, and there's something really powerful about doing this together as a community, in person or online. So we take 3 minutes. If you're online with us tonight, take your 3 minutes. You can drop them in the comments on YouTube or Facebook, and we'll be back with you in 3 minutes. But if you're in person, Derek here is going to have a mic, and he'll walk to you and hold the mic, or you can hold it however you all want to do it, and lift up something good. Are you ready for this? Let's take 3 minutes.
Hello. Secret is I just smile and say follow me. I'm sitting on top of the world, on top of the world. Life's too short not to really live. I got a big heart, I can let you in. I'm sitting on top of the world, on top of the world. On top of the world. I'm sitting on top of the world, on top of the world. My secret is I just smile and say live for today. I'm sitting on top of the world, on top of the sun came up and I gotta say see it in a whole new way. I'm sitting on top of the world, on top of the world. Yeah. On top of the world. Yeah. I'm sitting on top of the world, on top of the world. Yeah. On top of the world, yeah. I'm sitting on top of the world, on top of the world. People ask me what my secret is. On top of the world, I'm sitting on top of the world, on top of the world. People ask me what my secret is. On top of the world, I'm sitting on top of the world, on top of the world. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sitting on top of the world, on top of the world. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sitting on top of the world, on top of the world.
Good stuff. Thank you all for celebrating in the house with us. There's some. That was kind of cool. I got to hear myself. So if you're new with us, that is creepy. You can't hear me? Now we'll roll with it. If we can. Okay, so we're going to join with our online community. Sorry, online community, we were having technical difficulty. So we want to hear your celebrations. They'll get thrown on the screen, and Tammy and I will read them. Is it that mic? Is it that mic?
Check, check. Is it on?
Is this mic working? Oh, is it on?
I think so.
No, I had this problem last week.
No, it's on.
It's on. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
You take the first one.
Okay, Lori says, I got an exciting new job. Let's
Way to
celebrate
go,
that,
Lori. Let's keep this train going. Ricky. Man, Ricky and his wife were out here a few months ago, and he was celebrating, was it a year sober or 2 years sober? Was it two? Correct me if I'm wrong, Ricky. I think it was 2 years. Few more days, and baby Jackson will be here. We are so excited for his arrival, and we are excited for you
Yay.
all, Ricky and
Awesome.
Jamie. Good stuff, man. Joining us all the way down from Texas.
Anne Marie says, I got a raise at work and working on a new opportunity as well.
All
Yeah.
right, Anne Marie. Jen Deckard says, blessed to be on this journey with my best friend and soulmate. Christy definitely is my heart, and I'm so grateful God brought us together. We're grateful y'all are together and grateful you're here tonight.
Amen
Joining
to
us.
that.
Yes. Celebrating that with you. No, they're not here. That's why I was looking into the camera.
I wish they were
They're
here.
all the way in North Carolina.
Debbie says, celebrating being back at Free via internet.
Yes.
Woo-hoo.
Celebrating
hear,
that with
Debbie.
you. Should we do one more? Couple more? Steven says, got a raise. Hopefully we'll beat inflation. We're going to celebrate that one. That's a big one. There you
love
go,
it,
Steven. All the way from Pennsylvania.
Heck yeah.
Should we do another? One more. Let's do one more.
Yvonne says, second week of intensive outpatient therapy.
Yes.
Woo.
Yvonne.
I love it.
Thank you for lifting that up, and thank you for letting us celebrate that with you. That is someone in the community here said that's a big one, and that is a big one. Thank you for joining me, Tammy. It's always good to have you up here. Okay, y'all, we are in week 2 of our. Oh, I forgot to mention. Noelle came up and told me, like, hey, don't forget about Santa. I've got to mention Santa. Santa is going to make an appearance here next week. Is it at 6 o'clock he'll be here? 6 o'clock Santa's coming, so bring the kids. He's going to be like by the fireplace. I'm sure there's going to be candy canes involved. We'll have cookies and snacks here, so bring the kids, bring the family. It's going to be a good time with Santa. Oh, yes. Santa will also, with our kids in the back, in the back kids' rooms, he'll be reading The Night Before Christmas. Isn't that awesome? Don't be trying to go in the kids' rooms, y'all. We'll do fun things in here, too. Okay, so we are in week 2 of Travel Light, and this one is called The Messy Middle, but here's a little Travel Light video. All right, so what do you do when you find out things aren't the way you thought they were? So I brought a guest with me tonight. I want you all to say hi to Willow. Hi, Willow. Come on, give her a greeting. There you go. Yeah, see, Willow, she's an angel. She has been visiting the Canada household for, I don't know, probably the last 5 or 6 years now. And she's been through all kinds of stuff with us. Like sometimes she'll just appear on the kids' dresser to celebrate holidays and birthdays with us. Sometimes on the really hard days, like Willow will make an appearance at the breakfast table to be present with the kids. And sometimes she'll make an appearance like she'll be on the kitchen counter that morning, or some night she'll make an appearance in the living room. And you know what's funny about Willow? And you can tell she's been through some things. Yeah, She's been with us through the good and the bad. She's got the broken wing to prove it. And out of all 4 of our kids, Shiloh, our 8-year-old daughter, she has taken a particular liking to Willow. Might I even say like a deep love for Willow. In fact, it was really fascinating because sometimes you would see Shiloh, like Willow would be on her dresser that morning, and she would just be in tears of like pure, unadulterated joy at Willow's appearances. And she would pick her up and hold her, and she would say, "Mom, can Willow sleep with me tonight? I promise I'll snuggle her, I'll protect her. Can she sleep with me tonight?" I mean, just pure forms of joy. Now, it was about a couple of months ago. Shiloh started asking all sorts of questions. Like, well, I don't understand. I mean, how does Willow get here in the morning? I mean, no, Poppy, my window was closed and it was locked, and I checked the doors, they were locked. I mean, how does Willow appear? And she started asking question after question, and these questions led her into a bit of fear. She would say, "Well, Poppy, that's going to be kind of creepy if Willow comes tonight. I don't want her to come tonight because is she going to break my windows, and how's she going to get in?" So we put her to bed that night. This is about 2 months ago. We put her to bed, and Tammy and I were having the conversation. Is it time to tell Shiloh, our 8-year-old daughter, what's really happening here? Do we tell her that Willow was actually purchased just down the street at the Hobby Lobby about 5 or 6 years ago, and that we're the ones who set Willow out on the dresser or the breakfast table or the couch or the coffee table, wherever it is? Do we tell her? And we decided it was time to break the news to her. So I said, "Honey, I've got the perfect idea. Since you're like the tender one and the gentle one, I think you should go in there and you should just break the news for her, and I'll wait out here." And she said, No, Ryan, you've got it all wrong. You're the pastor. You know how to deal with hard conversations like this, so I think you should go in. Finally, we arrived at going together. And actually what we did was we just called Shiloh in our room, and she came into her bedroom, and she was sitting on our bed, and we broke the news to her. We said, "Actually, baby, we're going to tell you something. This might be hard to hear. We purchased Willow right down the street at the Hobby Lobby, and we got her about 5 or 6 years ago, and we're the ones who actually set Willow out on the dresser or the breakfast table or the couch or the coffee table, whatever it is." And she just, like, her world collided. Her world crumbled. She started to cry. And she said, "Are you telling me Willow isn't real?" And then she dropped the bomb on us. She said, "Well, if you guys are lying about that, then what else are you lying about?" Yeah, ouch. So when she went to bed, it was like this tender moment. She was in tears. It was like the dark night of the soul. And she goes to bed, and she wakes up the next morning, gets ready for school, and she comes downstairs. She's got her backpack on and her lunchbox. And I said, "Baby, I know last night was kind of hard. How you doing?" And she said, "Poppy, it's very sad. But Willow brought me lots of joy, and I'm never going to forget that." And she walked out the door, and I was like, yes, parenting win. What do you do when things aren't the way you thought they were? And let's just be honest for a moment, because these are generally times of doubt and heartache and disorientation and uncertainty. Do y'all know Brené Brown? Yeah, if you're new with us, you're gonna hear me quote Brené Brown a lot. I think you should quote her too. I think you should read everything she writes. She's a great author. She's a social scientist. She's done a lot of work on shame. She wrote a book a couple of years back called Rising Strong. Anyone read it? Okay, a few of you. So in Rising Strong, she gives us this really helpful language for what we're talking about tonight. And she calls this thing the messy middle. You're familiar with the messy middle? She calls it the messy middle. And she actually got this help from the Pixar movie makers. You all know Pixar. She was meeting with Pixar, and she tells the story in her book, and the Pixar makers, the filmmakers, were explaining to her how they make a film, and they use the same process for every film, and it's a really simple process. We'll throw it on the screen for you. They come up with 3 acts, and the first act is the protagonist is called into adventure. Act 2 is the protagonist solves the problem and usually hits rock bottom. Their language, not mine. Act 3, the protagonist learns the lesson and comes out a little more enlightened. But see, the problem is it true? We love to try to skip over Act 2. We love to go from the adventure, skip all the hard stuff, just bring me into the enlightenment. Bring me to the lesson. I don't want to go through the hard stuff to get there. But as she says, the messy middle, you can throw it on the screen. Shoot, I'm just going to read it to y'all. She says, the middle is messy, but it's also where all the magic happens. All the tension that creates goodness and learning. And by the way, doubt, heartache, disorientation, uncertainty, it is all so central to the God story. It's actually central to the Christmas story. And so what I want to do with you for the next few minutes, I want to look at this story, and I want you to ask yourself the question, is it possible that religious culture has domesticated this story to such an extent that it's no longer relatable? So I want to reread a part of this story with you. And I use the language of reread because even if you've read this story, or even if you haven't read this story, you are probably familiar with the basics of this story because you live in a very particular time and culture. Now this story, it's the part of the Christmas story where Joseph finds out that Mary, y'all know Joseph and Mary, the ones you see in the nativity scene all the time, the ones who had Jesus, that Joseph and Mary. So Joseph finds out that Mary is pregnant, raising the question, what do you do when things aren't the way you thought they were? Are you with me? Let's read part of this story. It comes from Matthew's Gospel, the first chapter. Remember, in the New Testament, there's 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. This is from Matthew. This is how the birth of Jesus Christ took place. When Mary, his mother, was engaged to Joseph, before they were married, she became pregnant by the Holy Spirit. Joseph, her husband, was a righteous man. Because he didn't want to humiliate her, he decided to call off their engagement quietly. And let's just pause there for just a moment. Because in that time and in that day, in the first century world of Joseph and Mary, to be engaged, this was a legal contract. It was binding in every sort of way. So Joseph is presented with some problems, some choices. He's right smack dab in the middle of Act 2 of his story. Shall we keep going? As he was thinking about this, an angel from the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, Joseph, son of David, don't be afraid to take Mary as your wife, because the child she carries was conceived by the Holy Spirit. And let's just pause again and name the obvious, because some of you are thinking, man, that's super creepy. Joseph, don't worry, God did this. God got her pregnant. Yeah, that's not creepy at all. Keep in mind, whenever you see angel appearances in the spiritual traditions, especially in the scriptures, whenever angels come along, they always give the same message. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. All right, let's keep going. It gets good. She will give birth to a son, and you will call him Jesus, because he will save his people from their sins. Now all of this took place so that what the Lord had spoken through the prophet would be fulfilled. Look, a virgin will become pregnant, give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel. Emmanuel means God with us. Now it's interesting because oftentimes when we read this story, we tend to focus on all the things that don't resonate with us, all the things that don't really make sense to us. When we read the story, we focus on an angel appearing in the dream, or we focus on the magicalness, I don't even know if that's a word, the magic of a virgin birth. And some of y'all, listen, I get it. Some of you are like, yeah, that's where I get lost in the story, because that stuff just doesn't happen. A virgin birth, that's not how babies come in the world. Okay, I'm with you. Maybe we need to reframe the thing. Can we do a little historical side note? Let's do a historical side note. Did you know that in the first century Roman Empire, all Roman emperors were said to be born of a virgin? This is nothing new. All Roman emperors, all Caesars were said to be bringers of peace. They were called names like King of Kings, Lord of Lords. Interesting, isn't it? So when you read the gospel stories and they're saying these things about Jesus, I mean, they're proclaiming a very radical message. In a way, they're saying, listen, a new emperor's rolling into town. But no. You got to keep reading the Gospels. This kingdom, this king is very different. This stuff is not built on power and military might and Pax Romana. This stuff is built on things like God's healing love and forgiveness and actually vulnerability. This stuff looks way different than the kingdom we're used to. And it's about a love that's available for all people, not just some people at the top. But it's interesting, isn't it? We focus on all the things we can't really relate with, like fulfilled prophecy. Can't really relate with that one. So when Joseph finds out Mary's pregnant, he can only conclude that there's been a bit of infidelity along the way. This is not the way I thought things were. So the pain, the anguish, the betrayal sets in, the baby shower's called off. I mean, can you imagine this from Joseph's perspective? Man, this was supposed to be good and joyous. Why did this happen? You ever felt that? This was supposed to be good and joyous. Why did it go down this way? So in that time and in that day, Joseph had some choices. He actually had two choices. One, he could declare his injury publicly, to which Mary would be stoned. Not stoned, but stoned, right? Put to death by rocks. Or he could divorce her, leave her quietly. I mean, do you hear, even in the Christmas story, the doubt, the heartache, the disorientation, the uncertainty? Yeah, this is the world Christ was born into. All of that hard stuff, all of that messy middle stuff. You know, several years ago, I started to notice this thing happening. And right around the time of the holidays, so usually in November, this kind of dark, ominous cloud would move in, and it wouldn't just stay for a little bit, it would sit and linger in my life. This dark, ominous cloud. I'm not talking about a deep depression. I'm just talking about this kind of dark, ominous cloud that lingers in life the way it does. And for so many years, I thought to myself, if I can just figure out why this is happening, and for those of you that know me, you know the why is very important because the whys drive us in life. If I can just figure out why this is happening, then I can get back to the happy. Why is this happening? But y'all know it's true. Sometimes that question of why actually has a way of pulling you backwards. Or it has a way of keeping you in the exact same spot. It keeps you from moving forward. So about 3 or 4 years ago, I made the very conscious and intentional decision that when this cloud moves in, as it does, I'm going to name it and embrace it the best I know how. You know how to do that? Oh yeah. I know who you are. I know what you're here to do. You're going to try to convince me that I suck and everyone around me sucks. You're going to try to convince me that this is just the way it is and nothing's ever going to change. Listen, you can hang out for a while, but don't wear out your welcome. You can't stay here forever. You just got to welcome it. You got to name it. You've got to embrace it. And then, even then, shame can set in, can it? Man, am I the only one who deals with this stuff? Man, I should have my life more together. I mean, for crying out loud, I'm a pastor. During the holidays, I'm supposed to be teaching people how to have joy. This is the season. Man, y'all, it can be hard to embrace the messy middle because that stuff hurts sometimes, doesn't it? But see, it's interesting because the more people I talk to, the more of you I talk to, you guys have very similar experiences. Because the holidays, if we're honest, for so many, it has a way of bringing up all the loss, all the grief, all the family dysfunction, all the reminders that things aren't the way you thought they were supposed to be. And that word supposed to gets us in trouble, doesn't it? It's not the way you thought things were. And see, when we read the Joseph and Mary story and we put these real people in a real world in a real time, well, it resonates just a bit more, doesn't it? Instead of that Mary who's in nativity scenes, and y'all see the nativity scenes, she's usually like this. Her hands are folded and she's smiling and she's blushing a little bit. And then you got Joseph. Joseph, he's like the man, standing there big. And y'all know Joseph and Mary weren't white, right? I mean, Middle Eastern. So Joseph standing there with his stick in hand and nothing's going to affect him and he's not affected by the outside world and he's just going to take care of business and get stuff done. And does it ever feel like the religious experience becomes one that is just so difficult to relate to? But see, when we humanize the humans, it becomes a bit more relatable, doesn't it? Because God is in that messy middle, and we actually get to experience God when we're willing to go in, all the way in. You know, early in my sobriety, I remember having this very poignant conversation with my sponsor. And I told him, man, I said, dude, I've read all the steps. I've read the 12 steps. And I really got to thinking about it. If I buckled down, I think I can get through these things in just a couple of weeks. Because my thinking was, I've surrendered to this stuff. Now I want all the light. And I want it all at once. More. Disease in full effect. Because it's a disease that says more. And I don't want to go through the hard stuff. I don't need to go through the hard stuff to get to the good stuff. I've already surrendered. I don't that personal and moral inventory. No, we don't need to hang out there very long. To reflect on the chaos that I've created in the world around me. No, I don't need to reflect on that stuff very much. And to consider character defects. I mean, who wants to hang out there? And to make amends to people that I've harmed. Well, we'll think about that one. You see, I did not want to go through the hard stuff to get to the good stuff. And it took me some time to realize that, listen, if you want to get to the enlightenment, going back to film language, you have to go right through the messy middle. Is it true? You see, the temptation will always be to try to run away from these things and try to get the joy, the deep kind of joy that we long for, to try to get this stuff without going through the hard stuff. But see, in my experience, the authentic spiritual journey isn't about moving away from, it's actually about moving deeper into. And the spiritual journey is about moving deeper into. If we embrace it, it moves us into the messy middle, all the way into it. Because to be fully alive, we have to acknowledge all of it. The messy middle. This is the world God was born into. And Joseph had some options, right? I mean, he could have run. He could have said, screw this mess. I ain't dealing with that. You're the one that made the mistakes, not me. But he stayed present. He stayed in the messy middle. And when all those questions come up in your life, when all the doubt, all the heartache, all the disorientation, all the uncertainty, when you're like, man, this is not the way I thought things were going to be. This is not the way I thought things were. What do I do? Yeah, you embrace it. You welcome it. You articulate it. You name it. You don't run from it. You don't avoid it. You let it sit in. Because listen, on the shelf of your heart, oftentimes pain and sadness rests right beside joy. Poppy, it's very sad, but Willow brought me lots of joy, and I'll never forget that. By the way, how does the story end? Let's look at the last two verses. When Joseph woke up, he did just as an angel of God from God commanded and took Mary as his wife. But he didn't have sexual relations with her until she gave birth to a son. Joseph called him Jesus. You see, when you go through the messy middle and you embrace it and you stay present through it, it might just lead to an awakening. Do y'all know that the scriptures are filled with stories of people waking up? They were once asleep, but now they're awake, and they're awakened to a new way of living and being and existing in the world. And why call him Jesus? Emmanuel? Because it means God with us. And the messiest parts of your stories, and the part of your story that just creates in you shame and embarrassment, and the parts you want to forget, God was with you in those messy parts. And God is still with you in the messiest parts of your story, and your moments of doubt and heartache and disorientation and uncertainty. Stay present. Stay aware. In fact, the most simple prayer that I pray on most mornings goes like this: God, keep me open and aware. Because see, in a world where there is pain and sadness and injustice, there is also in that same world joy and goodness. God was born into that world too. But if we're not open and aware, we miss it, don't we? We miss it. So my brothers and sisters, let me ask you a few questions. Questions for you to reflect on. Have you been avoiding the messy middle in your life? Have you been trying to skip Act 2 and get to Act 3 in your story? Are there parts of your story that create so much pain and anguish that it's just easier to avoid the messy middle? And have you yet awoken to the God who is present in your story, not just parts of your story, but all of it? So take a moment and reflect. What's the scariest part of your messy middle? You can reflect on those questions all week long, by the way. We don't deal with those things in one night, do we? All right, y'all. Each and every week here at Free, we do have a guest storyteller in the house to join me in this living room. It used to be a table. Now it's a living room. Remember the old space? We just had the little table. Now we actually get to sit on couches. Man, we are going places. Nicole, come on up. Actually, you don't have to come up yet. Your video is going to play. Nicole is our guest storyteller tonight. And some of y'all might remember Nicole. She did a letter to your addiction. When was that? 3 months ago? 4 months ago? August. Ooh, time flies. Yeah, she did a letter to your addiction back in August. She has this very powerful story. I want you all to hear some of her story around the messy middle and the other side of the messy middle. So help me welcome Nicole Marso. so serious in that picture.
I was just about to say I look real pissed.
So, Nicole, you didn't have the same reaction that my daughter Shiloh has when you saw Willow.
No.
But she's going to join us tonight because Willow joins the family through hard stuff and good stuff. So she's going to join us on the coffee table tonight.
Perfect.
She's going to provide all kinds of comfort. Nicole told me that she was nervous to do this. She said even yesterday her hands were sweaty.
My hands are
and I said, guess what? Mine too. Because anytime we get in front of people, it should make us a little nervous. I've said it before. The butterflies, the sweaty palms, they let us know we're still alive.
Yeah.
They let us know we still care about what we're doing in the world. So, and I know Nicole's story, we've met a few times, but we met this week to just hear more pieces of your story. And yeah, I know this stuff is like the closest stuff to your heart.
Yeah.
And so I want to start with something that is very close to your heart. I know you've been sober for 15 months.
Yeah.
How about that? 15 months of sobriety. And I know it was your drinking career started. You said you started drinking alcoholically the day your brother died by suicide.
Yep.
He was 14. You were
Yes.
22.
Yep.
Can you talk to us a little bit about that? And I know in sharing your story around this, we often say you are empowering other people to dig into their story, to give them courage and hope, and to show what it's like and what it can be like. And so what was it like?
Yeah, so I started drinking pretty late for, I think most alcoholics I've heard stories that they drink really early. I didn't drink in high school, and I didn't drink after high school. I would drink like occasionally, but I never really did. But the day that my brother died, that was the first night that I drank with no intentions of stopping drinking, because it really gave me this feeling that I didn't care. It took my feelings away. And obviously what I'd gone through that day, finding out that my brother had died by suicide, there was so many feelings. And so when the nighttime came and I was consuming alcohol, those feelings weren't there, and I really liked them not being there for a little while. And I think for a while, I used my brother's death as an excuse to drink to the extent that I did, and I think nobody questioned it because I did just lose my little brother, and it was okay that I was not okay.
Yeah, and we have something in common. I lost my brother too. I
Yeah.
think many of you know that. I was 18, he was 22. That pain never goes away.
Never.
In fact, the day we met on, was it Wednesday?
Mm-hmm.
Wednesday we met? Mm-hmm. That was your brother's birthday.
Yeah.
And I know it was like a tearful, sacred day
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
And you actually recognized that day by serving other people,
Yeah.
which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But when you said you picked up the bottle that night,
Mm-hmm.
and you were in a hotel, that was the first night you drank to numb out, to
Yeah.
not feel.
Yeah.
You said you didn't care
I didn't
how
care.
much you drank and why you were drinking.
And I had a newborn baby at the time, and I was breastfeeding, so that was not okay to not care that much. But I also kept using this excuse that my brother had just died, and so it was okay to drink that way, and it wasn't. But I carried that on for years,
Yeah.
and I used that as an excuse for a really long time.
So I know you said you were lonely in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You have 2 kids now, Aspen and Oakley, if you don't know Aspen and Oakley. But there was a moment that brought you to the hospital.
Yeah.
And this was in 2020, so not like the hugely distant past.
Yeah.
2020, you were at the hospital for some pain you were experiencing. Walk us through that and what the doctor said to you.
So at this point, so this was in August of 2020, and I put myself in therapy in about October of 2019, knowing that using my brother's death as an excuse to drink as much as I had been drinking was not okay, and it was time to start dealing with the grief of it. So at this point, I'd been trying to get sober by myself for about a year, and obviously I couldn't do it. And my drinking landed me in the hospital. I woke up one morning. I was at my mom's house. My mom and I had stayed at, or my kids and I had stayed at my mom's house because there was a lot of issues in my relationship. And so I woke up that morning and I was experiencing like a lot of pain, and the only way I could describe it is I felt like I was in childbirth and I wasn't pregnant. And so I went to the hospital, and I was no new person to the hospital. I used to go for panic attacks all the time, which I also knew was related to my drinking. And it turns out that I had pancreatitis, which was obviously related to my drinking, and I was 29 years old at the time.
So 29 years old, laid up in a hospital bed, feeling like you're giving birth but not being pregnant. Tell us what the doctor said to you.
So the doctor walked in and he said, you're in a lot of pain, aren't you? And this was after I just finished all like the scans and everything, and I was like, yeah, like that's what I've been telling you. And he goes, are you a daily drinker? And I said, no, I only have wine.
Hold on, you lied? Because none of us in this room have ever lied to a doctor.
And so I told him that I only drink wine with dinner, which was a lie.
That too is a lie.
I would like chase my vodka with wine at dinner. But the doctor looked at me right in my eyes and he said, bullshit. And I was like, excuse me, how rude. And he said, and he looked at me and he said, 29-year-olds don't get pancreatitis, Nicole. And he said, if you continue to drink the way that you have been drinking, you're not going to see your kids graduate high school. And they were 7 and 3 at the time. And that was enough for me. That immediately after he said that, he looked at me and he said, do you want help getting sober? And I said yes. Before I could process that statement, before I could think about it, like my mouth just said yes. And yeah.
Well, what was it that, I mean, how do you describe that? What was the thing that made you say yes?
I don't even know, because after I had said yes, it was like, I immediately was like, oh shit, like I'm gonna have to do this now. There's no going back. And so I always say that I feel like this doctor like looked into my soul and saw that I needed help and that I wanted help, and no one around me could help me. Like I'd been calling out for help and no one really, I guess, understood where I was at, but this doctor saw it. And so when I said yes, he was like, I'm going to help you get sober, but getting sober in the hospital is the easy part. And he said, when you leave here, it's going to be the hard part. So, yeah.
It's almost like God was doing for you what you could not do for yourself.
Absolutely.
By saying the word yes.
Yes, yeah.
So you've been sober for 15 months.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, the pain doesn't just go away. I didn't ask you this when we were talking, but I would love for people to hear it now. What's the one thing you wish people knew about those who have gone through the death of a loved one through suicide?
That, it's kind of a lot like addiction. There's absolutely no shame with it. And a lot of times when I know, at least I can speak for my family, when my brother committed suicide, we didn't tell anyone what actually happened for like a year. We just kept saying that he got in an accident because my mom didn't want to talk about it. And then a year and a month to the day later, his best friend committed suicide. And for me, I was like, what if we had talked about it? What if we had been honest with these kids? What if we really, at least made ourselves safe people to come to and talk to about it? And so I've been very open with talking about suicide because it needs to be talked about. It needs to, we have this thing that we say, it's okay to not be okay, and it is, but you got to do something about it too, and you need to know that there are safe people to come to, and there are people that you can talk to about it. And I am one of those people, and there are so many people. 1 in 4 people that have actually been affected by suicide in some way, and a lot of people don't know that, and that's actually really big. And so, you got to talk about it. You got to talk about it.
Breaking the silence. So if you're watching right now, or if you're in the room right now and this is something you've battled, You've got to reach out to people. You've got to reach out to people who are safe, and we've got to, this is something we have to talk about because it's happening in our midst all the time, and you're absolutely right. There's all kinds of shame around this, and we don't want people to know. We got to keep this stuff quiet. So thank you for breaking the silence around this issue. It helps so many people. Nicole, I want people to hear from you too. So the messy middle, and then there's the other side.
Yeah.
There's life being restored. There's God doing for you still what you could not do for yourself, and God making all things new. Tell us about some of the things that have been restored in your life, and just kind of your relationship with God now.
So luckily, my relationship with God was one thing that I never lost through active addiction. So when I first got sober, literally all I had was like my relationship with God and my kids. That was all I had left. I was homeless because I had to leave my relationship. So I didn't have a car, and it was in the middle of COVID, so I didn't have a job. So I literally had God and these kids. And in that moment, that was all I knew. I needed this relationship with God to continue to raise these kids and stay sober. But I mean, there have been so many things in my life, like I didn't realize how messy my middle was, because I spent so much time like being the perfect outside person and everything was great. And then now that I'm actually like working on my life and I'm sober and I'm doing my best to be a good friend and be, service to other people, I'm looking back at my life when I was drinking and it was a shit show.
Yeah.
Like it was like ridiculous.
And you said something so profound actually there. I didn't realize how messy my middle was.
Yeah.
I mean, how many of you is that true for, that you didn't realize how messy your middle was because you've spent so much time avoiding it, not going in there. And that's what I think is the scary part about the messy middle. I don't want to go in there because there's no telling what I'm going to find in there. There's no telling what I'm going to have to deal with in there.
Yeah.
You told me a comment that Aspen, how old is Aspen?
So she'll be 9 on Wednesday.
She'll be 9 on Wednesday. Happy birthday, Aspen.
I know. I'm so sad about it.
Don't tell her that.
I tell her all the time. I'm like, you're supposed to be a baby forever.
That's funny. So she said something to you that was really profound about her bedroom.
Yeah, so she told me the other day, so when I was drinking a lot, we moved a lot. I don't know why, because we couldn't pay our bills, but it's so expensive to move, it never made sense. But we always moved, we never finished leases. And we've almost been in our apartment for a year now. And Aspen the other day, she goes, I've had my same bedroom for a real long time with you. And I was like, that's because mommy pays her bills now. So, yeah.
In the sober life, we get to pay our bills.
Yeah.
And give our kids a bedroom.
Yeah,
For
and the
an
same bedroom.
The same bedroom.
The same bedroom
How
that
beautiful is
hasn't
that?
changed. And yeah, it's
And
really
you guys
cool.
have been coming to Free now for, I think, 7 months?
Yeah.
Can you tell them what Oakley said?
Yeah, so Oakley, my son, is my baby.
How old is your baby?
He's 4,
4 years
and
old?
he's very shy. And because I think both of his parents spent so long drinking, he doesn't open up to adults. So when I would take him to church on Sundays before we found Free, he hated going because he didn't like that separation with me and being with people that he didn't know. But the very first time I came to Free, it was obviously in the old building. And when it was over and we were leaving, my daughter, who I knew was going to love it, was like, that was fun. Are we going to come back next week? And then Oakley, he was like, yeah, are we coming back? I had so much fun. And I was like, you loved it? And he was like, yeah. And so, I mean, we just kept coming back.
I love that.
Yeah.
And he's excited to come every week.
Every
He
week.
gives me a high five each week.
Yeah, he asks like every day, like I'll pick him up from school on like a Monday and he's like, can we go to church? And I'm like, we can go to the building if you want to, but like nobody's gonna be there. But he really loves it. Like when we were coming and doing like the painting and stuff here, he was all for it. Like he wants to spend every second here, and that's such a different thing from anywhere else that we've been. And both of my kids are so hands-on in my recovery, and this place has taught them so much about recovery. And I think it's really cool because they hold me accountable sometimes.
Yeah, that's awesome. I am so glad you guys are part of this Free
Me
community. And one of the reasons we do these just simple storytelling moments is to give other people hope, to empower other people to go into their story, to see what it's like that you can be a sober mom to these kids that need you, and life can be good again. Not perfect, but life can be good when we go through the messy middle. So I'm glad you're doing the hard work.
Yeah.
The hard work never ends, does it? We always get to do the hard work.
Yeah.
And so thank you for being up here, Nicole. And listen, you hit on the important theme of suicide. And could someone in this room, I know somebody has it, the suicide prevention hotline. Could someone drop that in the comments on the live feed? Just if you're battling, there are places to reach out, but you actually got to take the step to reach out.
Yeah, and reach out because you matter. You matter to someone. You really do.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
Nicole, you said you were nervous, but dang, you just talked to me like on the couch for like 20 minutes, and it was awesome.
It's the microphone. It's making me feel like Britney Spears vibes. So I'm loving it.
Thank you for being here.
Yes, of course.
Awesome. Thank you, Nicole. Oh, should I sit back down? I noticed I'm not in the video. All right, y'all, how we end things here at Free after our guest storyteller is we share heartaches together. Because we carry some heavy burdens in this world, don't we? We carry that messy middle with us. We carry the doubt, the uncertainty, the heartache, the disorientation. So one of the ways that burden, one of the ways we travel light together is to actually do it together and lift those heartaches up. So this is your opportunity. Just like we do with celebrations, we take 3 minutes and you can lift up your heartache. How can we pray for you? How can we encourage you like this community does? How can we step in with you? How can we help carry the burden? So take 3 minutes, and if you're here in the house, we'll do our own thing. If you're online, give us, you can put them in the comments, YouTube, Facebook, and we'll come back at you in just a few. Nothing is too big, nothing is too small, so we'll see you back in 3 minutes. a burden, don't leave here tonight without talking to someone. There's people here who would love to talk with you, so don't leave here tonight without connecting. I know there's some heavy stuff out there. So, you joining me up here tonight?
Yeah.
All right, D.
Not as good looking as your wife, but I'll.
No, you're not, dude. I can confirm that. You're stronger than she is, though.
It's a heartache.
Because I saw you lift this beast. That is a heartache.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Kind of. All right, dude. You take the first one. I'll take the second one.
Monty, prayers for my nephew just diagnosed with cancer, second surgery on Monday. Monty, definitely lifting up your nephew. That's not easy stuff, so he's in our prayers for sure.
Yeah, prayers for you. She goes by MJ, but she's Monty on Facebook.
Awesome.
Stephen says, wife's father passed away at age 97 last Monday. A very giving man. He will be missed. Stephen, lifting you and your family up in a time of loss. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Ricky, had to go to a funeral this morning and say goodbye to a good friend. Her battle with addiction is over and she can rest in peace now. Please keep the Kennedys in your prayers. Ricky, we're lifting up you and your family. We're lifting up the Kennedys. Now that she's in God's hands, that's never easy, but we're lifting up everyone there.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that with us, Ricky. Single track Matt. Lost my son the day I went into detox/rehab. Alcohol destroyed my time with him. Finally saw him for the first time today after 58 days. Wow. I'm 57 days sober, and I hope I can rebuild our relationship. Single track Matt, I'm not sure if we've ever met, but thank you for sharing that with us. We're lifting you up. And y'all, can we turn this into a quick celebration and celebrate 57
Amen.
days sober?
Amen.
Way to go, buddy. Let us know where you're joining us from. We'd love to connect.
Yeah. Patricia, prayer for a successful another attempt at sobriety. I need to lighten my messy middle. Patricia,
Yeah.
we're lifting you up. A relapse can be a triumph, so we lift up that stuff, learn from that. The messy middle's never easy, so we love you and we're sending your prayers.
Yeah. Patricia, thanks for chiming in. You should come next week. Come next Saturday. We'd love to connect with you here. We saw you last Saturday. All right, do we have one more? Let's do one more. Jen says, heavy on my heart is my strained relationship with my younger brother. He just stopped talking to me. It's very painful, but I know I've grown in my recovery because I'm not chasing him down to talk with me. But it does hurt, and I'm planning on writing him a letter and mailing it to him. Thoughts, prayers, please. Jen, connect with people here. I'm sure lots of people have thoughts on that. Thank you for your vulnerability and sharing that with us, praying for you and your relationship with your brother and this journey of recovery that we all get to walk through together. So
Amen.
Continued prayers for you, Jen. I'm glad you're part of this community. Thank you, D. Love you, dude. All right. Yeah, we're going to clap for Derek. Let's do that. All right, y'all, I do want to remind you one of the ways we're sustained in this community is by your generous giving, and I can't tell you all how grateful we are for that each week. There's giving boxes. There's one here. There's one when you leave these doors if you want to donate to this community, to this organization called Free Spiritual Community, to keep this thing going, to keep the doors open, to keep breaking the silence of addiction and creating space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection. And listen, if you'd rather do the online thing, that's cool too. There are 3 ways to give in the online arena. The first way is to simply download the app. That too is free, and it's called Free Spiritual Community, and you can give there. You can give monthly, bi-monthly, weekly, however y'all want to do it, one time, or you can go to the website freespiritualcommunity.com, and you can do it that way, or text the number on your screen and it'll walk you through a simple set of instructions. And listen, your generous giving helps grow and sustain the mission here at Free, and I know for many of you it is a spiritual practice of giving, and you give in such a way that it makes a difference. It makes a difference to you in your own pocketbook, and it also makes a difference in this community, and for that we are really grateful. So I want to invite you all to open your hands, take a big deep breath. Yeah, you can extend your hands too, like Johnny. Take a big deep breath, and let's go out with the Lord's Prayer. If you don't know it, it's on your screen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. My free brothers and sisters, may you find the courage, the God-given courage, to go deep into your messy middle. And along the way, may you experience all kinds of grace and peace. Love y'all. We'll see you next week for those of you online.